If you want to open a store on Shopify, have a regular source of income, and in short, own a store that can help you achieve financial freedom, then you will need the real information you're going to learn in this video because we will be explaining everything through real events and, most importantly, the experiences of real people. We will cover the realities of Shopify, the tactics people use, the costs you need to know about. In short, everything. But make sure you watch until the end because there will be a bonus piece of information at the end. 2012, in a garage in England, a 19-year-old university student starts producing sportswear with nothing more than a screen printing machine and a sewing machine. He has no money, no experience, just an idea. His name is Ben Francis. The brand's name is Gymshark. Today, that brand generates more than $500 million in annual revenue and is valued at over $1.3 billion. Gymshark started in a garage with a screen printing machine and a sewing machine, and as of 2026, it generates more than $500 million in annual revenue and has a valuation exceeding $1.3 billion. So what was the secret behind this business? Building genuine partnerships with fitness YouTubers at a time when nobody even knew what influencer marketing was. That's the most important point. To give another example, consider this. 2016, a single product, a sports shoe made from wool. The brand was Allbirds. Within 5 years, this single product had turned into a $277 million empire. Allbirds started selling on Shopify in 2016 with a single product, the Wool Runner shoe, and by 2021, it had reached $277.5 million in revenue. Let's give another example. Think of a brand that sells wallets, Ridge Wallet. It took a minimalist wallet design and, by using Shopify's data-driven features to optimize its advertising and conversions, turned it into a multi-million-dollar brand. And these aren't isolated, lucky events. They happened by using the right information and methods. Just during Black Friday weekend in 2025, Shopify stores broke records in an incredible way. Shopify stores processed $14.6 billion in sales. That's a 27% jump compared to the previous year, with transaction volume reaching a massive $5.1 million per minute at its peak. Since the platform was founded, Shopify merchants have generated more than $1.4 trillion in total revenue. If you look through the sources, you can quickly find the evidence that these figures are real. How does that sound? You're thinking, I can do that too, aren't you? And that's exactly where the reason you need to keep watching this video begins, because there is a side of these stories that isn't shown. And that's the part most people never want to talk about, the hidden, dangerous, and very real side. Chapter 1, what are the real costs? In this chapter, you're going to learn the real costs. Everyone thinks opening a Shopify store is almost free. While that is partly true, the reality is much more complicated than you might think. As of 2026, Shopify has 5 different plans. The smallest one is $5 per month for people who only want to sell through social media. If you want to build a real online store, the entry-level basic plan costs $39 per month. As you start growing, you move up to the Grow plan, which costs $105 per month. Once you reach an enterprise level, there's Advanced at $399 per month. And for much larger brands with much greater capacity, Shopify Plus starts at around $2,300 per month. In 2026, Shopify offers 5 plans. Starter at $5 per month for social selling, Basic at $39 to $49 for new stores, Grow at $105 to $135 for growing businesses, Advanced at $399 $525 for established merchants, and Plus starting at around $2,300 for enterprise operations. In other words, as your store grows, your subscription plan grows with it. But here's the reality nobody tells you on day one. For most sellers, the subscription fee is rarely the biggest expense because for sellers processing meaningful sales volume, transaction fees and app costs can quickly exceed the cost of the plan itself. Every time you make a sale, Shopify takes its share. And if you don't use Shopify's own payment system, Shopify Payments, that share can get even bigger. If you use a third-party payment gateway, Shopify adds its own fee on top, 2% on Basic, 1% on Grow, 0.6% on Advanced, and 0.2% on Plus. The difference may look small, but as your volume grows, it can turn into a massive difference. Most sellers don't do the math on this. For example, with 1,000 orders per month and an average order value of $80, the difference in transaction fees between Basic and Advanced can reach $320 per month. So what is a realistic monthly budget for a typical new store? For a small store, you can expect to spend between $50 and $150 per month. The plan fee, 2 to 5 paid apps, and a theme. That sounds manageable, but that's only the platform side. There are other expenses: advertising budgets, product samples, shipping tests, supplier agreements. None of these are included in that figure. And in a moment, you're going to see where these numbers actually go, so get ready. Chapter 2, the numbers don't lie. How many actually succeed? Now we're getting to the most critical part of the video. There's a myth circulating around the internet. 90% of dropshipping stores fail. This number has been repeated so many times that people now accept it as fact. But it's actually a misleading rumor, because here's the truth. Shopify does not publish an official failure rate for individual sellers. The commonly quoted 90% failure within 120 days figure is largely unverified and cannot be traced back to a primary study. So there is no definitive proof. So what information do we actually have? Let's look at more measurable sources. In 2026, the annual merchant churn rate on Shopify is around 28%, and only 10% of new stores are still active after 90 days. Think about that for a second. 9 out of 10 give up before even 3 months have passed. That's not exactly encouraging information. Looking at the long term, the picture improves slightly, but it's still brutal. Industry analyses suggest that only around 5%, 10% of Shopify stores achieve long-term profitability. And especially with the dropshipping model, things become even tougher. Only around 1% of Shopify dropshipping stores generate more than $10,000 in revenue per month, while the average Shopify dropshipping store generates only around $1,500 per month. So why is there such a huge gap? Because most people make a simple mathematical mistake. New sellers think they can buy a product for $10, sell it for $30, and make $20 in profit. But they forget the hidden costs that eat into that margin. Customer acquisition can cost $25 for a single order, shipping and fulfillment can add another $5, and transaction fees pile on top of that. The number you thought was profit can actually turn into a completely different situation, because there can be additional costs in every case. Then there's the abandoned cart problem. The average Shopify store has an abandoned cart rate of around 70%. That means 7 out of every 10 people who add something to their cart leave the website without buying, somehow simply changing their minds. If you don't build a system to recover those customers, it doesn't matter how much traffic you get, you won't make money. But if you manage to do it, your sales can explode. Chapter 3, the real failures of people who didn't act with the right methods and information. Statistics can feel abstract, right? That's why I'm going to tell you 3 real stories. First, a dropshipping entrepreneur operated her store for 18 months and generated $180,000 in revenue. It sounds like a success, but the margins never worked. She shut down the store within 30 days, took a 6-month break from e-commerce, and eventually returned as a freelance Shopify consultant. That's a pretty serious failure. $180,000 in revenue turned into 0 profit. There was no profit at all. The second story is an even harsher collapse. An entrepreneur selling men's clothing raised $400,000 for his business. By month 20, the cash had run out. And instead of continuing to take on debt, he officially chose liquidation. Hundreds of thousands of dollars weren't wiped out overnight. The money slowly disappeared month after month until the business reached a point of no return. The third is actually a story of hope. A DTC brand shut down, but its founder kept the 11,000-person email list and the brand voice they had built. 18 months later, using the same list and brand voice, the founder launched a B2B hotel amenity business. In its first year, its revenue jumped to 3 times the level the old DTC brand had ever reached. The lesson is this: sometimes the channel that fails isn't the product. So what do these 3 stories have in common? None of them said the product was bad. They all woke up too late when it came to the math. Chapter 4. Why do sellers fail? The 4 stages of collapse. The failure of Shopify stores isn't random. There is a reason behind every one of them. There are specific, recurring reasons, and they can be broken down into 4 stages. The first stage, demand. Nobody wants the product the seller has put in their inventory, or dozens of people are selling the exact same product, meaning the only way to compete is through price. Many entrepreneurs start by copying trending dropshipping products or selling generic products that compete with dozens of similar products. This isn't necessarily completely wrong, but it's a difficult path. Without clear differentiation, these stores are forced to compete only on price, which destroys their profit margins. The second stage, traffic. The product is good, but nobody is seeing your store. Without an advertising budget or organic traffic, the store turns into a silent graveyard. That's why having a good advertising budget isn't enough. You also need the right advertising strategy. The third stage, trust. Traffic is coming in, but people aren't buying because the store is new, unknown, and gives them that, is this a scam feeling? This is where that 70% abandoned cart rate comes back into play. If sellers can establish trust here, strong sales become much more likely. The fourth stage, mathematics. This is the most deceptive one because it requires a lot of effort. Sales are happening, the store looks like it's working, but you're secretly losing money on every order. Advertising costs, shipping, returns, transaction fees, all of these add up, your margin slowly disappears, and months can pass before you realize what's happening. Other common mistakes include not focusing on a single niche, weak store design, a get-rich-quick mentality, poor product selection, a design that isn't mobile-friendly, and weak customer service. Remember, the vast majority of e-commerce traffic today comes from mobile devices. If your store looks bad on a phone, you're losing the game before it even starts, meaning those sales become nothing more than a dream. Chapter 5. How long does it take to become successful on Shopify and sell like a real expert? Forget those 6-figure income in 1 week videos you see on TikTok. Most of them are made up information because the reality is very different. Entrepreneurs who take dropshipping seriously, especially during the first 6 to 12 months, treat it like a full-time business. Daily responsibilities include product research, ad optimization, order fulfillment, customer service, and operational management. This isn't a system you can simply set up and forget. It's actually a living organism that you need to feed, monitor, and fix every day. The first 3 months are generally a testing period. You're trying to figure out which product, which ad, and which target audience actually work. Months 4 through 6 are the scaling period, where you scale what works. After 6 months, if you're still standing, you start thinking like a real business owner. Cash flow, inventory management, brand building. If you've worked hard in all these areas, you become a true expert. Chapter 6. How much do product ads really cost? This is the part nobody tells you about from the beginning, but it's one of the things that can make or break the business. Advertising costs vary significantly depending on the platform. On TikTok, according to 2026 data, conversion campaigns cost between $9 and $13 per 1,000 impressions, between $74 and $1.50 per click, and the median customer acquisition cost for e-commerce is $32.74. TikTok also requires a media budget of at least $1,500 to $3,000 per month to start generating enough data. This can be a major problem for most small-scale businesses. On Meta, meaning Facebook and Instagram, things are a little more expensive, but there is a different advantage. While TikTok's median cost per click is around 50 cents, that figure rises to 172 cents on Facebook. Looking at customer acquisition costs by channel, Meta is $212 to $230, Google is $50 to $130, TikTok is $90 to $129. Influencer marketing ranges from $40 to over $300, while email marketing is almost free. That's a little better. The lesson here is this. Advertising isn't just a cost, it's an investment. But if your product's profit margin can't cover that cost, no matter how much advertising you run, you're going to lose money. There's also a huge difference depending on the industry. Pet and animal products have the lowest customer acquisition cost on TikTok at $13.46, while electronics are the most expensive category at $31.25. So your niche selection directly determines your advertising budget. This is something you need to be very careful about. Chapter 7, the software ecosystem. What software do you need? There is an invisible layer of software that keeps a Shopify store running. It can be divided into 4 main categories. The first layer, email and SMS automation. This is how you recover that 70% of customers who abandon their carts. One of the most popular names is Klaviyo. It syncs with your store data and triggers targeted email and SMS messages. For example, when someone abandons their cart, it automatically sends a reminder sequence that may include a discount. For those with a limited budget, OmniSend is a strong alternative. One brand reported achieving a 525% increase in revenue using this tool, with almost half of its revenue coming from OmniSend. The second layer, product sourcing and order automation. We'll cover this in detail in the next chapter. The third layer, conversion and trust signals. The top 10% of successful stores don't wait for trust to form naturally. They use tools that display real-time purchase notifications to create the feeling of a busy, active store. When someone sees a notification saying that someone just bought this product, it can speed up the purchasing decision. In other words, it gives the buyer confidence. The fourth layer, loyalty and repeat purchases. Tools such as Smile.io, Loyalty Lion, and Recharge help bring customers back and increase their lifetime value. Remember, the most expensive customer is a first-time customer. Convincing that customer to shop with you a second time is much cheaper. That's why you need to put in the effort from the beginning. Chapter 8, the supplier section. The most important part, who should you work with? Now we're getting to the lifeblood of the business. Choosing the right supplier directly determines your profit. There are 4 major names, and each one plays a different game. Deezers is an official AliExpress partner. It became the official replacement for the legendary Oberlo app that Shopify removed. It's known for its ability to process hundreds of AliExpress orders with a single click, which can save an enormous amount of time for stores that are scaling. But it has a weakness too. You also inherit the weaknesses of AliExpress, such as variable quality, long standard shipping times, and inconsistent supplier communication. CJ Dropshipping takes things a step further. Although it is China-based, it has warehouses in the United States, Germany, Thailand, and Indonesia, and it offers a serious advantage when it comes to branding. It provides a quality control video for every order, allows branded packaging setups, and even has an AI pricing engine in its app that can negotiate discounts with suppliers on your behalf. That's a very important feature. Spocket takes a completely different strategy. Instead of China, it works with suppliers based in the United States and Europe. It covers more than 7 million products sourced from the US and EU, and its branded invoicing feature is especially appreciated by users. This increases the credibility of your brand. Shipping times are much shorter, but product costs are generally higher. So which one should you choose? Deezers is suitable for AliExpress automation. Spocket is better for US and EU-based sales. Zendrop offers guided setup for beginners, and CJ Dropshipping provides sourcing and order management support. There is no single right answer. It depends on your target market and your branding goals. You need to analyze this very carefully and make the right decision. Chapter 9, the hidden tactic, how to negotiate with suppliers. This is the part nobody openly tells you about, and it's one of the most important pieces of information I told you I would give you at the end of this video. When you come across a supplier on Alibaba or a wholesale supplier, the minimum order quantity or MOQ is not a fixed law. It's a default number based on the supplier's ideal customer. The number you see may reflect the supplier's preference, but it isn't an impossible barrier. So, how do you lower your purchase price? There are 5 concrete tactics. First, ask directly, but never be rude to the supplier. Most factories are open to giving a little flexibility on the MOQ they list, so be respectful and don't make an absurdly low offer. Second, always ask for a sample before discussing the price. This is one of the biggest mistakes buyers make. If you agree on a low price first, the supplier may later send you lower quality goods, and you won't have much room to correct the situation. Pay a little extra for the sample and actually test it. Is it durable? Are the colors correct? Does it really work? Test every feature. This will pay off in the future. And of course, you'll gain valuable experience along the way. Third, talk to multiple suppliers at the same time and use one against the other. You can use Alibaba's comparison feature to put 3 or 4 suppliers side by side, then tell one of them, this supplier is offering $1.80 for 200 units. Can you match it? Fourth, offer a slightly higher unit price for a smaller quantity. When you place an order that doesn't match a supplier's standard purchasing quantities, suppliers have to take on extra inventory or pay premium prices for smaller quantities, and they pass that cost on to you through the MOQ. If you compensate for that difference in the price, the MOQ can come down significantly. This is information you shouldn't ignore. Fifth, and perhaps most importantly, look for smaller factories. Smaller factories usually have more flexible MOQs because their overhead costs are lower and they're often more eager for business. Choosing a large, well-known supplier doesn't always mean getting a better deal. Sometimes the opposite can actually be more profitable. And one final tip, you can increase your negotiating power by offering to exceed their MOQ. After all, getting larger orders is always more profitable for companies. But be patient. Since there may be a significant time difference between you and China, it can take a day to get a response. Keep this in mind. Chapter 10, the 4 pillars the top 10% know. So what really separates the winners from the losers? Industry analysts break it down into 4 pillars: trust, visibility, value, and data. A new Shopify store starts with a trust gap. The top 10% don't wait for trust to form naturally. They use technical signals to prove that they are an active, busy, helpful brand. Real-time purchase notifications, highlighted verified reviews, and fast loading times are all deliberate choices. On the visibility side, technical infrastructure is no longer a luxury. It's an absolute necessity. You need to meet the 2026 Core Web Vitals standards. Page load speed should be under 2.5 seconds, and mobile devices account for 80% of e-commerce traffic as of 2025. On the value side, winners don't sell products, they solve problems. Look, this is one of the most important pieces of information because buyers are looking at a product and asking themselves, what problem does this product solve for me? On the data side, the common factors are clear. A strong brand identity, investment in email marketing, a focus on customer lifetime value, data-driven decision-making, and continuous improvement based on customer feedback. Closing. So the question is no longer, should I open a Shopify store? The question is this: will you be part of that small percentage that starts in a garage and turns into a $500 million brand? Or will you be part of the majority that generates $1,500 a month and quietly shuts down before even 3 months have passed? Every piece of information given to you in this video is based on real data and real experiences. These are rare insights. If you understand this information correctly, apply it correctly, and enter this business with the right approach, your chances of success become much higher and the process becomes much easier. The answer isn't hidden in the product. The answer is hidden in when you learn the mathematics. Winners knew their margins before they received their first order. Losers learned them 1 month before they shut down. The product you advertise should solve your customers' problems, should not face excessive competition, and should be marketed correctly. To learn more, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because we're always coming to you with another business model and thoroughly researched information.